Oh, Tom,
Hey, how are you, Ernie?
I'm good. Very good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Gee whiz, I just clicked on here to make sure I could get on it all right, and there's all these people already ready to join in with us. Here comes quite
Well,
a few.
this is very important.
Yes,
This is
indeed.
extremely important.
How are you feeling? Okay?
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Good, good.
You know me, Tom, just being careful.
That's right. Prepare ahead. Plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Now, in theory, I have a much better connection with my computer than I had yesterday because we just got a brand new modem uh, for HughesNet. So I don't know if that's going to make any difference or not, but just be aware of it.
Okay.
And okay, now let me get Margaret in. Margaret Ann, come on in. Tom's on the line. Okay.
Hello, LG Stylo 6. Hello. I don't know who that is. Are you still there, Ernie?
I'm here.
Your picture looks a lot better, so that upgrade to your system must have helped out a lot.
Interesting. That's great to hear because I really,
Do you know of any other announcements that we should make tonight? Do you have any to make?
no.
Okay. Did your recording?
Here's Margaret Ann.
Hi, Margaret.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
That's good.
Very good.
Ernie, did
Let
you?
me move the computer just a bit.
Oh, that's right. I thought we had to move us.
Well, we can move us, but we'll move the computer.
Ernie, did you find out if they recorded that talk you did for Nicaragua the other day?
They said they would tell me, but they said they would tell me, but I haven't heard.
Nope.
I really, but what I can do, Tom, is I read it directly from my notes, and I can send you what I said
Uh-huh.
without you being able to see me saying it. Which mostly they had, I think the interpreter was on the screen rather than me anyway, so it didn't matter. She was a very good interpreter. I really had hoped Sally could do it, but she does these conferences. You know, that's her job, and she happened to have a conference that morning. So
I need to move over if I'm to be.
you're fully in the screen, honey.
Okay.
Look.
I'm behind you.
Oh well. Then move forward.
Marilyn Anderson just called and said she wasn't going to be joining us tonight. There's a labor movie or something on
Too
tonight
bad.
that she's going to be watching. And I don't know if Bob Kaiser ever got registered or not. I talked to him earlier this evening and sent him the flyer for the second time and told him he needed to register. But my last check, I didn't see him on there. We have about 43 or 44 people registered for the program tonight. So that's pretty good turnout.
Which is great.
That's good.
Now, do we record the program, Tom? Can we record it?
Yeah, I'm recording it now, as a matter of fact.
But can we put it up on YouTube?
Yeah, I got to figure out how to do that. I don't have the technical savvy. Maybe Mary Ann does.
But, Mary Ann probably does.
Yeah. That poor lady, I've been bugging her
Tom
like crazy.
I've been that's her job, Tom.
I've been driving for Mary Ann crazy. I'm so nervous, and I'm saying, oh, could you send this link out to everybody and just, people that didn't register could sign in? And she's like, why do you want to do that?
Yeah.
So
Right.
Well, you got to hit people over the head 2 or 3 times.
Well, that's the thing, you know,
You've been counting?
yeah, well, I used to send out notices for my facility engineers group, and you have to like keep pounding just to keep it in front of them on their email or something, or it just falls off the thing and they forget about it in a day. I do it all the time myself.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, who is LG Stylo 6? Is that
Hello.
person muted?
Hello, LG Stylo 6. Are you there? Somebody that wants to remain anonymous, I guess. Or maybe it's just away from the computer right now. And will be joining us, you
Yeah,
know.
that's possible.
Sometimes they sign in early and then they just put up their profile, a picture, or their name or something while they go get a cup of coffee or clip their toenails or whatever. So.
Oh, that's what I forgot to do.
Nothing on the chat. What's your prediction of when you and your wife and Margaret and I can get together?
I don't know.
Some meal.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll have
We
to
should
figure
do
it
that.
out.
Yeah.
You know, actually, we went to the Caledonia Inn, and they've got it set up with all their staff wearing masks.
Yeah.
They got the tables spread far apart. I felt it was very safe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
it was
nice?
pleasant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it the Village Grill, Caledonia Village Inn? It's right on the circle, right?
Caledonia Village. It's up right on the traffic circle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. We love
That'd
it there.
That'd be close for you too, right?
Oh yeah, it's only about a 15-minute drive, 20.
Yeah, it's about 10 minutes for us.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to plan it? Ask your wife
Wait
and let me know.
Wait until I get this back taken
Later.
care of. I'm still waiting to hear from the doctor's office. I got the letter approving the insurance on Saturday, and so his office must have it by now. I tried calling to make an appointment. They just keep shuffling you from here to there. Voicemails are full. Nobody picked up the phone. I'm like, really? That doesn't seem like quite the way to take care of business. So
Great.
I can just see I'm going to go through Labor Day weekend that way. Hello, Carol Manuel. Welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. We're the early birds. We're 15 minutes early, but we're just hanging out. And
Yeah, we're hanging out.
That's good.
now,
Carol, we can't see you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get myself on there. I've got this. I'll figure it out.
Down on the bottom, on the bottom, there's usually a thing that says video. And that's
Yes.
what you have to click.
Oh, I see. Wait a minute.
We can't figure that out.
I got it. There it is.
there you are. How are you?
There you are.
Nothing like,
All right.
it's nothing like covering the camera.
Oh, yeah. I've done that myself.
Yeah. But
Oh, here comes
Yeah,
Magda.
show me the person who hasn't done that. But Carol, do you and I know each other? I'm Arnie Matlin.
I'm Margaret.
Well,
Matlin.
yes, I'm not I used to be a regular Rocla attendee, but then I had a choir practice on Wednesday nights, which meant I had to.
Ah,
But I follow along very carefully with what you're all doing. So
great.
Yeah.
No, what we're all doing. Conclude yourself.
Magda's
I mean,
thing, right?
yes, I'm trying to.
Hola, Magda.
Hola, hola, but I don't have my picture.
Oh, Martha.
on.
Hello.
Buenas
We
tardes.
don't see you. We see there you are. Hi, Magda. Carol, do you know? Oops, we lost her.
I'm here.
There was another member. Carol, this is Magda Lanusa. She's one of our 2 guest speakers.
Oh, hello. Hello, Magna.
Hello.
Great to meet you.
Magda,
Nice meeting you.
Magda, before we start, at 7, we got 15 minutes. You want to try to see if you can share your screen with us?
Yes.
Let's try that before everybody gets here.
Yes. Allow me to have it on so we can test.
Hello, Gail Mack.
Hi, Tom. I see.
Hi.
I see you.
Whoa.
I can recognize the
There.
voice.
Okay. Well, how nice. See it, Margaret and Arnie. Good. Now,
Yeah,
do I-
we can't see you, Gail.
you can't see me?
No,
Gail, we can
Okay.
hear you, but we can't see you. You got to look down at the lower left. There's a thing that says Start Video. You got to click on that.
I've clicked on it twice. Wait a second.
Tom,
yes?
you
There
have to
you
allow
are.
me to share.
Yay!
Got it. Got it.
Hold on, everybody. Hold on a minute. Oh, hi, Gene. Magda, go ahead.
Hi, Gene.
You have to allow me to share the screen because it says you have disabled it.
All right, let me see. How do I do that?
You have to go below
Yeah,
the chart and you can say allow. You can, there's a click
Share.
there that says.
let's see. Optimize. Oh, share. Well, nope, that's my screen.
Now it's coming up. My screen. Again, you did it.
Well, you're sharing with mine, I think, right?
No. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, it's, I have to, okay, you have to, let me see. Yeah, you have to, my God, okay. You have to allow me to share it and keep it open because if you, that's my screen.
No, she's walked away. Well, you know, what you do when that happens, you hit stop video, then it goes blank, so people can't see you getting up, smooching or whatever. Could you make her a co-host, Tom?
That's what I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Yeah, I keep sharing my screen.
Yeah. I will try to do, it says again that you have disabled.
Yeah, I'm looking under share, under sharing screen. Oh, here we go. Multiple participants.
Yeah, because if you share your screen, it's you, not
Right.
me.
Try that now.
Okay. Here. About that.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go, Magda. All right.
There she is.
Don't do that. Don't do anything else, Tom. Just leave it there. I will
Oh, no.
stop
fine.
sharing because
Free.
we will start in 10 minutes. We can now relax and talk.
Very good. Very good. I'm just trying to watch for people
Gene,
that.
hello.
So,
Hi. Sorry, I was looking for my unmute.
Hello, Gene.
Now, Gene, we can't see you.
There you
Now
are.
you can.
Hello, Gene.
All right.
It's probably not great to have my video on until I need to be on because my internet is not great. So it looks better to not be on.
Well, you look fine and you sound fine.
For now, we're good.
You know Magda. Yeah. Do you
I
know
do
Magda?
now. I do know. Hi, Magda.
There she is.
Hi.
And this is Gail Mott, one of our founding members, Carol Manuel. I'm Arnie Matlin and Margaret Matlin, and there is Tom, our convener, the man behind the curtain, manipulating everything.
Yes, be afraid. Be very afraid.
Especially if you want to share your screen. He's going to give you the power.
That's right.
Yeah, right. You know.
Gail
So,
Mott, do I know you from Chris Boss?
Probably. That was a long time ago that
Well,
we
that's
were
what-
involved. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was in Chris Boss a long time ago.
Oh, well, that is, yes. Thank you for jolting me into remembrance.
Ginny,
Good to see you.
are you back at work or are you still working from home? At the office?
Crystal Saw is still working. Crystal Saw is working from home except for the people who don't have internet. So they're going into the office for
Okay.
the internet.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's even on music.
are both of you in El Salvador, in San Salvador?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we haven't met yet because, you know, even though the country has opened, there are still some issues about mobility, and people we're trying just to to get readjusted
Mm-hmm.
to the new times after COVID. So I haven't really been going outside for the last 2 weeks. I don't go usually, but since they opened, I haven't really been able to. I want to wait. That's my main reason.
Sure. Better safe than sorry. A lot of people.
Do you see Maxine? Do you see Maxine and Sarah's
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
from Buffalo?
Hi.
Hello, Maxine. Welcome.
Hello. Hi.
I don't see Maxine.
Well, we can't see her, but we know she's there.
Oh,
Okay.
what do I have to do to be seen?
Look on your lower left of your screen and see if there's a camera logo and click on that to start. There you go.
Yep,
Now
you're
we-
on. You did it.
now we see.
Okay.
But Margaret and Arnie have disappeared, but they'll be back.
No,
Yeah, that's,
I
we
I
just disappeared momentarily.
Margaret's here, Arnie hasn't, isn't,
Okay, fine.
but he's gonna come back.
Okay.
I just want to say hi to Carol Manuel because I see her now. So that's,
Hi, Gail.
hi.
So we got a bunch of folks, Maxine, joining us from Buffalo, I believe, and
Yeah.
we had about 43 or 44 people registered. And
Wow.
so I'm hoping that they all start to show up here real soon so we can get started on time.
Okay.
There was a very nice article in the Democrat and Chronicle just the other day about Martin Gugino.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good.
So he sounds like a very nice man. I haven't met him
Oh,
yet.
he is.
But,
Oh,
Terrific.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad they put that in our local paper.
yeah, it was a good article.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jean, while you're here, what are you doing now?
I work for Crystal Saw. I'm the director of research and human rights education at Crystal Saw. It's a human rights organization in Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras.
Oh, so where are you living down there?
Yeah, in San Salvador
In San Salvador.
since 1992.
Oh,
Mhm.
oh.
Hello, Bob Kaiser. Oh, you're muted. Oh, there you are. How are you, Bob?
Okay, hi.
How you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
So glad you were able to join us tonight.
Yeah, so everyone knows Bob was our convener for many, many years.
And I survived.
Finally, he decided, yeah, he survived being convener and Rocla thrived. But Bob finally gave it up, and Tom took over, and Tom's doing fine. Magda, we lost your picture.
I had hair when I took the job over, Bob. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where is Gail?
How are you,
Well,
Arnie?
you know, there is so much. I'm good. Thank you for asking. I'm very good, and very happy to see you, Bob. Why don't? Oh, there you are. Okay, Magda. I'm not the convener, but I get tense, Tom. Sorry.
Yeah. I know the feeling. Well, we're still waiting for about 35 people to sign in, so hopefully they'll show up here all at once or something.
All my learning during this pandemic with working with Zoom meetings is that always there are people who are late or they don't know how to deal with technology or something happens. So it's always minutes after. So I don't know your own experience.
Yeah.
But it's a challenge. Every meeting is a challenge.
That's for sure.
I always just tell people it's the same as in-person meetings. You always have to herd the people who are out drinking the coffee and wait for whoever got stuck in traffic. It's just different because we're all sitting here on these weird little screens.
Well, I don't know. Something happened here. Oh, well.
Hello.
Hi, Tom. Hi, everybody.
Hi, it's Joe.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
Hi.
It's Vic.
Hi, Vic.
Yeah,
Hey,
we can't see you guys. We can't see Vic or Kathy or Joe.
Well,
We can hear you.
I'm looking.
I'm driving
Here.
Vicky.
No.
on my way home.
Why I can't get it, I don't know.
I don't understand it.
At the bottom, it should say video, and there's a video logo, and you click on that.
Right.
Start video.
Start video. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, here you go. Vic's on.
You see me now?
Yep.
Yeah, I can see it now.
Just the top of your head, but we see you.
Oh,
He has the halo.
Man,
There's a halo.
Hello.
Oh,
Better.
there's something new every time.
Let's see. I don't know why I can't. No.
Oh,
Start
there you
video.
go again.
There we go. Hi, everybody.
Hey,
Hey, all right.
Hi, Bob Kaiser.
Hi,
How you doing?
I'm okay.
Hey, Howard, how's it going?
Hi.
Good, thank you.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Oh, Mick.
Good to see
Joseph,
you.
we still can't see you.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay. Thank you. I'm on a Zoom meeting.
I see nice pictures on the wall.
See nice pictures on the wall?
I think that was by Marilyn, wasn't it? The one behind Palm. No, I don't think so.
Oh, Gail Mott. Hi, Gail. Hi, Gail.
Hi, Kathy. I think I there. I do see you now. Hello.
Hi. Hi, Gail.
Hello.
Oh, that's not by Marilyn, but I'm not sure who did that. Yep. And that there's a big walking stick right there on the wall behind it, and that was the villagers in this little town in Nicaragua gave to me on my last day there, and they had it all
Where am I here?
whittled down, all sanded, all polished, really nice. Because I'd get up and go for a walk early in the morning on the mountains, you know, and so they gave that to me, and it's a fond remembrance.
That's nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, very nice. Oh, we got a bunch more people joining now, so we'll be able to get started shortly.
Well, I clicked on a email coming in, and then I have your pictures, but I don't have the big one, the big thing.
Well, go to, if you want a large screen,
No, it's not the problem.
hit speaker view.
There it is. It's on the upper right-hand side, the little box. The little,
You know,
Do you want to sit down too?
It says speaker view, Maxine.
I don't have that because I got off of it somehow.
Yeah, we can see you.
Just tap it.
We can see you.
Move back. Too close.
Hi, Bill.
Pretty much vertical, yeah. I think it's better. Is it too vertical?
oh, there's Richard and Beth Myers.
Hey, Bonnie.
Good evening.
Hello.
Yeah.
We are
Hi.
here.
Is
Gotta
that,
change our name.
is that a special backdrop you have, or are you sitting out in the sunshine?
I wish it were the sunshine, but we can't complain. It happens to be wildflowers in Palestine.
Oh,
Sure.
wow.
Hey,
There's Judy
Nelson.
White. Hi, Judy.
Hi, how are you?
I miss not seeing you at the Philharmonic.
One thing we're missing. I don't know where is Renee. I don't see Renee as well. No.
Hey, Nelson Portillo, aren't we gonna get to see you?
He's hiding.
Yeah, it's my son-in-law. He's the one that introduced me to Gene, so maybe he'll get on in a minute. Still have people coming, so we'll wait a few more minutes and then we'll get started.
So Barbara Deming and Wayne Ault are supposed to be here, but they're not showing up.
Well, their name is here. They're on, but we can't see them.
Yeah, they're on. We can't see them.
Tell me you can't get a photo.
I can't get a photo for some reason.
Picture.
Well, now you
I hear
everybody
that's
went
Wayne.
off. Everybody
We can
went
hear
off.
you, Wayne.
There you
Hi.
Hi.
Wayne, there's a little camera figure in your lower left. If you move your cursor down, if you click on that, that might take away the red line and allow the camera to focus on you.
No, let's click it again.
There you go.
You got it.
Oh, there he is.
Sorry about that.
You got
Yeah,
it.
hi, Wayne.
Are these Buffalo people too?
I imagine.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to see all the folks I recognize from Rochester. I want to say especially hi to Gail Mott. It's so nice, especially to see you, Gail.
Happy to see you, and even if it is this strange way. It's quite a special lineup here.
Yeah,
So many memories.
that's right. But there's
Hi,
probably
Gail.
Buffalo people here too. I hope we find out who's from where.
Well,
Want us to raise our hand?
I'm
Buffalo.
a Buffalo people.
just
But I
seeing
don't
the
know, can you
jungle.
see me?
Oh, nice.
Can you see Joe? That's me.
No.
Yeah, no, we can't see you, Joe.
I don't know why. I'm not sure.
But why does Bill Jacobson need his mask on?
What should I hit? Share content.
find-
Start.
Play
Find the little
video.
thing that says video.
There's a little camera
Hit the-
icon in your bottom left of your screen.
Okay.
Or
Right,
maybe
click on
up in
that.
the upper right.
There I am.
There you
There
go.
you
You got it.
Okay, now we're all okay. Oop.
Yeah. Bill
All I
Jacobson
gotta
is a
do is
photographer, so he
drive a
always
few
wears a
more
mask.
blocks and I'll be home.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is what I have to do all the time with my hand. Unless I
You can't
use,
just touch it.
Oh, you have to slide it. I mean,
Oh, here's Grania, but we can't see her.
Hey, Granny, your camera's not on.
How's that?
no, because I'm.
Rania, it's Howard Henry from Frontera.
I have no idea why my camera is not on because it's always on.
Try a little icon like a camera down in the bottom left of your screen. There may be a red line through it. Click on that and it should take the red line out.
Because it says, I know that's the camera, but I hit FaceTime HD camera and that didn't work. And then I don't know, nothing seems to work.
Maybe sign out and then sign back in, completely leave.
I've never had trouble with Zoom before, so who the heck knows?
Yeah,
Howard-
clicking on
Howard's
that camera
advice-
for me.
You have to go down, you might go down to the very bottom. If you go down to the very bottom of the Zoom screen, some new icons show up, and one of them is video.
Yeah, that's new. That's right.
Where's your background? Do you want?
Yeah, it says start video.
Okay,
Yeah.
press it.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not showing.
Oh,
That's what I'm saying. I've never had that problem, so who the heck knows?
Grania,
do you have your,
It means start
your
your
thumb
own
on the
video.
camera?
Well, you don't need to see me, right?
Right.
Oh, yes, we do.
Especially since I'm still eating dinner.
It would be nice.
I could use my little remote.
Grania?
Can you see us, Grania?
Turn the pages around.
Fine.
Really?
That's
The mouse works like this.
I see myself on. Alrighty. So why is this not?
Grania, how about the upper right-hand side? There's a little box,
Yeah. Got it.
a blue box. Click on that and then do video.
Oh, maybe that's the problem. I will see. Hold on 1 second, guys. Yes. Nope. I'm still blank.
Look like a snowman.
That's okay. You don't need to see me eating dinner. I've
But
had
you
my
see
whole
us.
family here today. So and little kids, babies, all of the above. So
Okay, well, it's 10 after. There's still some people coming into the room, but we were going to start at 7, and we have just such a wonderful program lined up here. And is that Martin Gugino down there? I see in the window.
Oh, hi.
Hey, how are you?
Hi.
You had a wonderful article in the Rochester Democratic Chronicle here day before yesterday, Martin.
Yeah.
He's the guy that got hurt.
So,
By the police guy.
if I could ask everybody to kind of mute your mics, except for Magda and Jean, who are going to be our guest speakers here in a minute. Let me do some introductions. My name is Tom Ward. I'm the current convener for the Rochester Committee on Latin America by default, and I'm enjoying it, and it's been especially interesting to see how we can continue to keep meeting like this, even with the pandemic in place. And so this Zoom has really created new opportunities. Both of our speakers tonight are coming to us live from El Salvador, and we didn't have to fly them all the way up here to talk to us or anything. So it's really wonderful that we're going to be able to get to hear their stories and more about El Salvador. So before we introduce them, I just have a couple of quick announcements. First of all, I'm really excited to mention that this is our first collaborative effort with Buffalo's Latin America Solidarity Committee, Lasc, which is part of the Western New York Peace Center, like we're part of Metro Justice here in Rochester. And so I wanted to ask Terry Bison, if you wanted to say a few words and introduce himself. Terry?
Yes, well, we're very pleased to be joining with you. We were going to, especially when we saw that you had done all the work of planning.
Yeah,
meetings,
right.
because we normally have monthly meetings all through the year like you do, and without being able to meet, we are very, very happy to join your meetings. We've known each other for years, but it's a little hard to drive over to Rochester for all your meetings and vice versa. So this is a great opportunity for us.
Well, we're excited to have you on board and collaborating with you and your great organization there, because I have a sign out in my front yard that says we are stronger together and a few other things, but that is the truth. We are all stronger together. So welcome, and welcome to all you folks from Buffalo. And so good to see a lot of Rocla members here as well. And so along those lines, let me just say this, probably true for Lasc as well. I don't know, I don't want to speak for them. But because of the pandemic and not meeting in person and not being able to have our fund drive like we, fundraiser dinner that we have every year, we'd like to remind you that we are still more than able and willing to take donations or new memberships. So spread the word and keep us in mind if you happen to find that you have a winning lottery number in your pocket or something like that. So just to let you know, coming up here in very near future, and our first meeting in October, the first Wednesday in October, we're going to be talking about Brazil, and we have Professor Wesley Costa speaking to us. He's a professor at Geneseo College, SUNY Geneseo. I don't have that date right in front of me, but it's the first Wednesday. It's like October 4th or something like that. Whatever that Wednesday is. And then
October 7th. October 7th.
October 7th. Thanks, Kathy. And then the first Wednesday in November, we have Karen Spring. And Karen Spring is the founder of Honduras Solidarity Network. And her husband was put into prison, a very brutal military prison in Honduras, because of his work for human rights and environmental rights. So join us for that. Karen Spring is very interesting, and again, it's the first Wednesday in November.
Milk is.
Okay, and then in December, we're working on having James Goodman join us. Granny,
All right.
I don't know if you've been able to get in touch with Jim Goodman or not, but he's a journalist in Rochester and very, very much and very knowledgeable, involved with immigration issues. So that's not finalized yet, but keep it in mind for December. I have to give a special shout out to a young lady I see on the pictures here. That's my granddaughter there, Elena Portillo. Hola, bonita señorita. And her dad, Nelson, my son-in-law, who we owe thanks to for connecting us up with Gene Rickers. And Arnie, we thank you for getting us in touch with Magda. So, with that, I will, Arnie, if you could introduce Magda to us, and then when Magda's done with her presentation, I will introduce Gene to the group.
Okay, Tom, I want to point out one fact that in November, it's not the first Wednesday as it normally would be. This is the day after election, and we thought no one would show up. So in November, it's November 11th. Yeah, the second Wednesday.
Thank you.
Magda Lanuza, yeah, okay. Magda Lanuza is from Nicaragua, but she now lives in El Salvador. As a young woman, she bicycled across the United States to dramatize the call for world peace. I don't even want to think about it. Magda graduated from UNAM, the Nicaraguan National University, and then received a master's degree in international relations at Brandeis University in the Boston area. In 2009, she was part of the United Nations Non-Governmental Organization Liaison Office. That office worked with the United Nations President's Office to prepare the high-level global conference that assessed the financial crisis that had devastated the world economy. Magda participated as a delegate in 4 of the annual United Nations Conventions on the Status of Women. She was the contributing author of the book, A Caring and Sustainable Economy, a concept note from a feminist perspective. At present, she's the Central American manager of the large Canadian private foundation, Canoli. She's also the project manager of a much smaller project called Proyecto Nimi and Ortiz, which is the way our family supports a Casa Materna in El Sauce, Nicaragua. And finally, Magda is the Matlin's 3rd daughter. We have 2 excellent daughters, but why not have 3? And Magda is that person. Thank you.
Okay, Magda, it's all yours, and I'm going to ask the folks to just bear with us. We're going to try doing some screen sharing and things like that, so we may have a few technical difficulties, but I think we can work them out. We had it working earlier, so I'm hopeful. Magda?
Thanks so much for such a nice introduction. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. Good evening, everyone. I think there is evening. Thanks so much, because I know it's almost dinner time for some of you, but you are here committed to discuss with us about El Salvador, such a small country in Central America, the size of the Nicaraguan lake, and we have the same population as Nicaragua, 6 million people, but we share so much history in this region. As Tom said, I will share the screen as I have a PowerPoint presentation. I hope that we can do this on time, even though we are starting a little bit late, but we are okay. So here. Well, this is the name of our meeting today. And Jean and I will try to take you on a short visit to El Salvador. In some of you, I can see the gray hairs, so you might remember what happened in this country during the 80s, when all the Central American region was at war, and we have those terrible times. But in 1992, it was the end of the war, civil war, and the peace settlement was signed. The legacy of that 12 years of war was 17,000 deaths. The United States was putting in money daily, almost $2 million, and it has been counted around 4.5 billion in 12 years for military aid to train Salvadorians, to do all the counter-insurgency tactics and torture techniques in this such a small country. Some of you are very aware of the events. Some of you were involved in the peace activism in the United States to end the US support to this endless war. Then the time came for democracy, as it's been called, this process, since 1992. And 3 right-wing governments came into power after the peace settlements. They had 3 priorities. One of them was reconciliation, reconstruction, and peace building. Then in 2009, a shift in the politics came to this country. And for the very, very first time in history, a leftist government linked to the former guerrilla came to power. And he was also a guerrilla leader during the 80s. And the priorities of these 2 leftist governments were focused on social protection, social programs, but also they were faced to the social problems led after the war, civil war, and the three right-wing governments, gangs. El Salvador is very well known around the world for the gangs issues and the violence led for these organized groups, crimes, and endless cases. So in last year, we have the big news. It came to the media, the former mayor of the capital, Nayib Bukele, very popular, known as only Bukele. He's Middle Eastern. Well, he was born here. His father was born here, but the family came from Middle East many years ago. And he was considered a leftist city mayor in El Salvador, but he broke up with a leftist party. And then he came to power as a candidate of a center right-wing political party candidate. So he has been in power for more than a year, and there were big expectancies. A fresh leader, he was considering and proclaimed not to be from the right, not from the left, just fresh blood in new politics, a young man, new way of ruling against corruption, nepotism, all the bad legacy that he was claiming to get rid of. Many people from the right and from the left voted him. This is a picture at the UN last year in September at the annual General Assembly in September, and he became very famous there because, as you can see, he's doing a selfie. Very, very interesting. But towards the end of the year, the things started to shift a little bit, and the positive view and the expectancies people had on him were a little bit vanishing slowly. And the big surprise was this year in January. This is a very, very famous picture of him at the National Congress on February 9th. Everyone in El Salvador knows and will remember for years in history what happened on February 9th this year. First time a president entered the National Congress with the army, as you can see, well, in good weaponry, and the police. And it was on a Sunday when the National Congress is not at work, but his goal was to pressure the lawmakers, demand from the lawmakers to approve 109 million loan to better equip police and soldiers, all because he said that, his promise to the Salvadoran people was to end violence, guns-related violence. So he needed more money. The Congress, the lawmakers were just taking the time, to discuss. So many political parties, 5 of them inside, but he wanted right away the money, and he did this. That was the worst decision a politician can do in this country, because the fresh memory of the militaries ruling this country are still fresh. For the Salvadorians here, it was an attempt to intimidate and return to that era in the 80s, when political violence dominated the country, using the army and the police. So it was the worst idea. But even worse that he, after he came inside the building, he went outside of the building and gave this speech surrounded with all the militaries, as you can see here. And he called on that day to get rid of all the politicians. He called for hatred. nobody could believe what was happening in our eyes on TV everywhere on that Sunday afternoon. What happened after that action? There were two readings, one at the international level, another one at the national level. At the international level, not much really. No, not much. Not many international organizations or human rights organizations were concerned about that. And as the Trump administration considers Bukele as an ally on immigration and all the strategy the government has against Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua. So they didn't condemn any of the actions of Bukele, but inside the country, there's still the legal process still going on. The chief of the army was last week at the National Congress giving explanations what happened on that day and why they violated the Constitution when doing that. Not even during the military governments, none of them came to the Congress, entered to the Congress to take over the national building, the National Congress building. Then in March, that was all the big event in February. Then in March, the pandemic came, and well, it was a new opportunity to grab more power for himself. That's how many Salvadorians read that after what we have seen in February. So during the pandemic times, El Salvador was the beginnings, was the first country in Latin America to declare the quarantine, stringent quarantine, when there was no cases. They started closing the borders. The militaries were allowed to arrest people violating the new measures, and new promises came. Oh, there will be food aid, don't worry, go inside your homes, don't move, don't get out of your homes, and a new hospital, the coolest and the best in Latin America, will be built in just 90 days. So the tactic here, instead of educating people, instead of providing people, accurate information, the strategy was to rule on fear. And practically after that, they jump on to deal with the emergency to address COVID-19. So one of the first actions was to lift public information access. They clear all the formal procedures for the state purchases, no accountability at all in any of the pandemic management funds, and millions of dollars requested at the National Congress. Over 3,000 millions have been requested. So then it was a time for the other institutions, governmental institutions, so we say governing bodies here, the National Congress and the Justice Supreme Court said on June 1st, you have to stop. There is too much power on yourself and you are trying to go against the Constitution. And one of his famous Twitters was, 5 people won't decide the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Salvadorians. He was speaking of the 5 permanent members of the Justice Supreme Court. In that case, it was a consideration against them, but the whole battle have started against the lawmakers of the National Congress and the Justice Supreme Court. I have listed here the bolts during the pandemic, what things have gone wrong. I can say, and we can say that every country has developed their own problems, their own crisis in the middle of the health crisis. El Salvador is not the only country with huge problems, but they are unique in some way because here people are being ruled by a millennial who promise everything will be finished from the last governments. No corruption, no nepotism, everything will be the people's power, we will rule with the people. That was a joke. So here are the things that we can say, and Jenny, she will develop more on the impact of this. It was very, very interesting because even during the first weeks of March, the people, the caravanas called here in Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, people gathering. You know, the pandemic is coming and the fear is here, but nobody was paying attention. People were still organizing themselves and calling everyone to, the people who were calling to walk and go by themselves to the US. So that was at the beginning of March. And so we have seen that during this pandemic, the tensions have increased with all the other political powers, with the Justice Supreme Court and the National Congress, and this is daily news for almost 5 months now. So first we have that at the end of March, the president tried to manage like a propaganda thing, not to educate people on a pandemic, not to organize the people. No, it was a propaganda machine to alarm and put people in fear. First, he gave wrong calculations, mathematical calculations from, I don't know where, engine, maybe it was a third press conference he gave on a Sunday evening, then I stopped watching them. And that day he said, oh, by the end of mid-May, there will be 3 million of people sick and many of them dead. I couldn't believe it. And many people said how he can make those numbers. And there were many, many scientifics here, many professors, researchers for the following day saying, sorry, you were wrong. Then in between April and May, he continuously kept saying that he was not going to obey any of the resolutions of the Justice Supreme Court. And instead he continued allowing the soldiers and police to remain on the streets detaining civilians and send them to detaining centers. Well, they denied they were detained in centers, but they were just any place, huge places where people were detained for weeks. And though the reason of that was sanitary, according to them, but you know, there were people, like hundreds of people in one big hall, sleeping, eating together, no mask, no hygiene, not even toilets. That was the way how in the university and many organizations filed cases against the human rights violations. In April, the president showed, I don't know if you saw around the worldwide news, a footage of Khan's jail. That was a terrible, I didn't want to print even those pictures because they walk around in the huge jails with professional photographers. Can you hear me? Okay. So they walk around in those gangs, in terrible human conditions, were there in photographed and shown to the media and to the world. Oh, this is the price I have got. The crimes rate have declined, and this is my legacy. Why are you hurting my government with all these criticism again that I'm not doing my work well done. Then after that, terrible pictures that even don't want to scare you. And for him, it was just a propaganda, a part of the propaganda again, to show how good he is, how great he has done because the crime rates have declined. 3 months after, follow of social programs. It was not really these two packages. The $300 bonus for people who were jobless or low-income families, and the food packages. Lot of news about these people who, terrible mistakes. They didn't have the good data to benefit the right ones. 3 people from the same family or 3 times the same person, or people living in the United States even got this 300. Other people in huge need never got any money. And the food packages, the same history. The packages distributed by the governmental office, big packages, the packages brought to the municipalities like $5, $7 packages with nothing. And even bringing that food packages to people who don't need it, when outside in the rural villages or in very poor neighborhoods, people were having white flags asking for food. They were bringing in food to Lasc, one of the richest neighborhoods in San Salvador. Then in June, it came the first resolution from the Justice Supreme Court to lift immediately the quarantine. Oh, he refused. And he said, no, I won't. All during this past time, these months, one of his strategies or his methods of ruling the country has been attacks to the media. Over 200 complaints until June 1st of violations to the right of information. This is a big thing here because this president it's against everyone. Like, he hates the right wing. He hates the left wing, and even has came into a fight with the private businesses. So nobody knows what he's doing. And at the same time, in a huge, terrible attacks to the media, like even in the first day he was inaugurated last year, he asked the policemen to take out of the inauguration place 2 journalists from one of the newspapers here, and he has continued doing that. His style is just insults to anyone who disagrees, disregarded the authority of the legislative and the judicial branches, and has dismissed not only the political opposition, but any civic organization or voice that challenges him. And he has a machinery for that. Just to manage his Twitter, because he's a Twitter writer, he has 17 people hired between Costa Rica and El Salvador. 17 people. So he does all this with the machinery he is being paid. I'm getting to the end, sorry. So what is El Salvador today? From the health crisis, we have been living in the political crisis and then the economic crisis. 5 months of lockdown. August 24th, just last week, the country reopened, but without any legal or technical frame for organized reopening, because there was no possible agreement between the president and the National Congress, as the Justice Supreme Court demanded on a resolution. Then, at the same time, the political campaign is active. During the pandemic, even the food aid packages were used for that political campaign, because next year there will be elections for the lawmakers and the city mayors and the city councils. So now we live every weekend, every day, we hear all the news, all cases of corruption. Low or not require quality of health products being purchased. Purchases among friends, relatives, among high-ranking officials. Overprice of products, for example, masks that costed, that were quoted for $1, they were purchased over $3. Many of the promises, including the coolest and the best hospital in Latin America, with 100 beds of intensive unit care, hasn't happened. They only have like 200 beds. And the time that he promised the hospital was going to build is overpassed now. There is still no information of the food aid distributed and no information of how the $300 bonus went to, where the numbers, how many families. And this has been information required officially by the National Congress. No information on that. On the other side, we have the economic crisis that is coming after all. The internal debt has increased incredible, because much of the money for the pandemic has come from the national budget that was approved last year, and internal loans that the government has been taking. Still, we don't see numbers of how many businesses have closed down or job losses, but we can see signs everywhere where we drive: for rent, for sale, for rent, for sale. Many of them will never get back, but there is some data that came 2 weeks ago from the UN Latin American organization, SALAM. It says that exports went down 25.9% and imports went down 17.8%. Just to give you the situation in the rest of the Central America, and everyone, all the imports, exports have been down. But the Nicaragua, comparing to the poor Nicaragua after the political crisis, Nicaragua is doing much better than El Salvador. They had the highest economic growth in the region because the exports grew 14%. It didn't go down. It grew 14%. And Nicaragua was only followed by Guatemala that grew 3%. But El Salvador has the most negative numbers. This is just a cartoon of the party that is being presented in here in the media, and every day the news and Jean will talk about the party that the president and his officials, some of them were former friends or former managers of his family companies, or just someone who was connected to the family somehow. Those are the people in the power now. And he cleared any right, any left wing, but it's a surprise. And so I just want to finish with this idea, this message that millennials are a big surprise in times of new politician, of the new era in politics. The pandemic has allowed many of us, many presidents, many leaders to show the best and the good, and also have been opportunities to serve the people who need the most. But here we have the case of El Salvador. And I just wanted to tell you how much money El Salvador has spent during this pandemic. I already told you that 3 million were requested to the National Congress. From that, 14 million where it's a loan from Japan, from the official loan from the government of Japan. Another 389 million from the International Monetary Fund, 250 million from the Inter-American Development Bank. The other came from public debt. So all has been spent 1,000 million on this. And you can see here the poor people who were walking outside the homes were detained here by the police and the army in the popular neighborhoods. Now we have this. So the crisis is going on. There will be so much for the next months. The economic crisis is coming hard. We still don't see the impact of 5 months of lockdown, but it's coming more and more. And the big internal and external debt is growing because this president is just money, 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 money to spend. And the people don't see where the money is going, even the lawmakers and the Justice Supreme Court. Thanks so much. I hope Jean can continue in telling us more. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Magda, for that introduction and laying the history and the groundwork there for us. And now I'm going to introduce Jean. And I just want to let everybody know that at the end of this, we hope to have a few minutes left for questions and answers. So if you have any questions for Magda about her presentation, if you could just hold on to them for now. And we'll get to that after Jean talks to us. So Jean Rickers is a human rights advocate, and she's a peacemaker living and working in Central America since 1990. And during the past 28 years of living in El Salvador, she is focused on research, education, and accompaniment of at-risk communities to stop the cycles of violence and advocate for public policy on security that will contribute to a culture of peace. She has served in different capacities with organizations committed to social justice and human rights, including CRISPAS, Interpeace, and FESPAD, F-E-S-P-A-D. Jean is currently the Director of Human Rights Research and Learning at Cristosal, an international human rights organization working in Northern Triangle countries of Central America. She has worked extensively with communities struggling with the problems of gangs and police brutality, as well as with incarcerated people and their families. As a keen proponent of participatory action research in human rights, education for social change, she works with a broad range of sectors addressing human rights and security. Her most recent work has been with the LGBTIQ community, Central American leadership on forced migration, families of people incarcerated under the enhanced security measures in prison. And her research and education interests continue to evolve, but remain grounded in deep respect for the dignity of each person. So Jean, take it away.
Hi, everyone. John, can you let me know what is our ending time so that I can kind of adjust? I think a lot of the things that Magda was sharing are really good basis for things that I can say, and I actually can speak for a little bit less time so that we give people an opportunity to ask questions that are in their area of interest, if that sounds good to everybody.
Yeah.
But I can.
If you
So
can
we
do
have
it
till
in
when?
about 30 minutes.
I can do it in less than that is what I.
Okay, well, that's fine. There'll be more time for questions and answers, but
yeah,
you've got the floor. You're in control.
Okay. Ooh. Never say that. So thank you all for being here and giving me a chance to talk a bit. Briefly, I'll just say that as a part of the community of Cristosal, I do have the privilege of working with a sort of team of really interesting people doing interesting things. So One of my colleagues is a lawyer on the El Mozote massacre case. If you're aware of really what was the largest civilian massacre in Latin America in recent history, is on trial right now in El Salvador. So I also could, in the question and answer time, talk about that, or some of the other issues that Magna was talking about. Our organization did present several of those cases that went to the Supreme Court and ended in those rulings that Mr. Bukele so adamantly refused to follow. So I'm happy to talk about some of those things, but what I wanted to talk about is some of the work that we've been doing around internal forced displacement of people in El Salvador because of the violence, which is not something that happened during COVID, but I think in the context of the pandemic, I can say a little bit more about that and how that is linked to the kinds of things that drive people to go to the United States. One of the things, and I may be very basic for people who are well versed in all of these things, but just to contextualize, when we talk about forced migration or forced internal displacement, what we're talking about obviously are people who move because they're obligated to for any number of reasons. And in that context, we talk about the right to not have to migrate. So the right to not have to leave your home because you've been threatened, the right to not have to cross borders seeking refuge. And when we talk about the rights of migrants, we're talking about people who have a right to move and to change their residency, change their country, cross borders, seeking better opportunities. So from a human rights perspective, we're usually trying to distinguish those things because I think in the United States, and you probably all know this when you're working on these issues, is that the general population has very little understanding in the US about what are the rights of migrants and what are the rights of refugees. They don't distinguish. And Mr. Trump, I hope I'm not going to offend anyone if I criticize Mr. Trump, but I will have to say everything that Magda said about Mr. Bukele, I think we all can recognize that there's a president in the United States doing those same things, and they probably have a secret messaging channel in which they share their ideas about how to do this, right? And I don't think that that's, I mean, we can, I joke because I live here and you gotta laugh to be able to get through it, right? But I think there is a rise around the world of this, you know, increase in authoritarian, sort of populist authoritarian governments and a rejection maybe of the way politics have been done. But in that context, the reality of people who are moving and crossing borders is really interesting because people who go to the United States, whether they're exercising their right to migrate or because they've been forced to leave their country because the government of El Salvador is unwilling or unable to protect them, are not necessarily going, and in most cases, probably not at all, going to the United States because it's the greatest country on earth. I know that's news for a lot of people, that that's not why they're going, but it is something that has to be taken into account when we try to understand why, even when Mr. Trump has spent a great deal of energy to create an ever more cruel response to people seeking refuge in the United States, that people continue to go. You'll remember a couple of years back when the news hit about, you know, and it hasn't changed, you know, children in cages. You would think that in El Salvador, where people love their children like people love their children anywhere in the world, that people would have immediately said, we can't go there, they're going to put our children in cages. But that understanding of what's happening comes from the fact that we don't really know what's going on here when people decide to cross borders, go in caravans, risk their lives, risk their physical integrity to cross borders and try and reach the United States. So you can ask me the questions about why they do it, but I'll give you a couple things. And I know Nelson's on this call too, and he's kind of an expert in all this stuff. So I will not pretend to be an expert in any way. But in El Salvador, what we call drivers are the basic conditions which drive people to leave their homes. So social conditions, political conditions, economic conditions that make it impossible for people to stay where they are. And in many cases, there are more than one condition that contributes to a general overall sense that it's not livable to be in your own home, right? But then we call triggers those things that happen to people that make them decide to leave their homes in that moment of forcing, right? When people are forced to leave their homes. So the triggers might be very different for different families because of a configuration of circumstances. But the drivers are the same drivers that have been here for years, that have driven people to leave El Salvador because of lack of economic opportunity, lack of political protections, a huge increase of violent crime over the last 20 years. And people live in this cycle of connecting to family who live in the United States. That's where the vast majority of people who don't live in El Salvador, who are Salvadoran, live. And so people seek those connections and those networks of things and the opportunity to have a job so that they can survive. So if you're threatened by gangs, or if you're threatened in a smaller percentage of cases by police brutality or threats from the authorities, and there's no way that you can find protection in this country, or if you're living in a situation of domestic violence and there's no protection for you, going to the United States and trying to depend on your network of families or even distant family to protect yourself or your children is something that makes logical sense when you live here and you see what people are deciding on. So the cooler that things are on the border, the more that different governments of the United States have tried to deter people from coming by creating adverse conditions, like right now sending asylum seekers to Mexico to camps. They will work to some degree in some moment, but they're not going to stop that flow because the conditions here and the triggers of why people are leaving have not been addressed. And I think these are things that we need to be talking about also in the United States as we look at immigration reform and immigration policy, that it can't, the bigger the wall, the wider the wall, it's not going to make a difference if we don't make a difference in the conditions here. So those are some of the things that we're addressing, I think, concretely here, is trying to see how can people who have internally displaced try and stay in this country and be able to live here where they want to live, and find conditions of safety. Before the change of government to Bukele, we had made some advances, I think, as civil society in influencing the government to consider the need to create a law and policy to address people who had been in a condition of internal displacement, which for numbers or figures, we're talking at least 250, maybe 350,000 people who are internally displaced because of violence. And when Bukele came in, he said that he was going to address that as well. But, it's a complicated set of things, but the short answer is he hasn't really done anything. So that's sort of not getting any response from you makes it hard for me to say, should I go deeper? Should I go further? I'd love to hear what people's questions are. You could even put them in the chat if you wanted. But I wanted to be able to say these things are connected to what's happening right now during COVID, where this president that we have, who loves to tweet that he's the best and the coolest, as Linda said, I mean, that's not a snarky evaluation of him. He really does see himself that way, and his followers love him for being cool. They say that in Spanish, cool. In that context where he's got this really authoritarian stuff going on, but this sort of new style. He's not the old style military dictator. He's the cool young guy who calls on his police and military to back him up because he's going to get rid of he's going to drain the swamp, or whatever the term here for the same thing is. That situation really requires him constantly giving these messages about how well he's doing. So the things that most concern people about violence and crime, he's been bragging far and wide that the crime rate has gone down. But those of us who have been looking at security issues for a very long time have some serious questions about what it means when we say the crime rate goes down. And one very telling example of what happened was there was a day where he actually tweeted, or one of those 17 people that Magna mentioned tweeted in his name, that that they had a day of 0 homicides. And in a country where homicides are some of the highest rate in the world, that's a very significant bit of news. The problem was that that same day, a woman was killed by her intimate partner. Because feminicide, the killing of women for being women, is something that he's not willing to look at or address or have talked about. And during the pandemic, the increases of crime inside people's homes, the kinds of violence that are perpetrated mostly against women and children, but not exclusively, have not been addressed. There's not been a plan. There's not a program of protection for these people. And now the possibility of people displacing is even more difficult. So it's not going to be surprising if, as things lift, that there will be a surge at some point in people seeking refuge outside the country, in spite of the fact that Mr. Trump has done everything I think that he possibly could, although tomorrow he might come up with something more, to try and eliminate the protections that international treaties require of us in the United States to protect and respond to people seeking asylum or refugees. So I think, you know, you might hear news about crime being reduced here. I do think it's possible that that data is responding to heavy policing and heavy military presence. It's harder for people to commit heavy kinds of crime in that context. But I think there's some serious questions to be asked about what's happening with the gangs and what kinds of negotiations perhaps are going on, because there was a big spike in gang-related crime at one point in April. The crackdown in the prisons came shortly after that, where he soldered the metal to the cell doors after he put people from rival gangs in the same cell. And they sealed them up, presumably as a punishment. You know, it's not legal to do that, but how those gangs have lived in those cells since that time with each other, and there has not been, as far as we can tell, any increase in violence in the prisons, brings up some questions about what's really going on. Is it all show, or are there real changes being made? Are the
Uh-oh. I think we lost you, Gene. Uh-oh.
Jean, we cannot hear you, Jean.
No,
Jean.
she's frozen. It's frozen. So we'll give her a few minutes, see if she can get back online again. But in the meantime, if you're familiar with the chat room, you could go down there and type some of your questions that you might have for Magda or Jean, and hopefully we'll be able to get Jean back with us. So take your time and type in a couple questions on the chat room, and then I can ask them when Jean comes back. She probably had to sign off and try to come back on again. Oh, there she is.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm really sorry. This happens not infrequently. Anyway, I was going to try and wrap up at that point, because I would really love to answer some questions, but I don't know, Tom, how you'd thought about arranging the questions. We want to do kind of a round of a certain number of questions, and people can say who they're directing them towards.
Sure. I can see most everybody, so I'm going to start with people that might raise their hands. And give me a second to switch screens back and forth to make sure I get everybody. So if you have a question for either Magda or Jean, at this point, you want to raise your hand? There, okay, Kathy, Grania, hang on. Let me see if there's anybody else on the other side. Gail, Matt, and Wayne. All right. Well, why don't we start with one of our out-of-town visitors first, just to be polite. Wayne Alt, why don't you ask your question? Let us know who you want to answer it, or one or both. Unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself, I think, by pushing the space bar down and talking while you hold the space bar down too, if you want.
How's that?
There you go. Okay, Wayne.
Hi, Wayne Alt from Buffalo, and I want to thank Magda and Jean for their presentation with us. And it's really helpful to hear people who have visited these countries and to understand what's really happening in those countries. I'm concerned with the whole attitude of the present administration towards Latin America and the fact that it looks like the administration doesn't feel these people need any liberty or any freedom or anything like that. I've worked with Rural Migrant Ministry of New York State, found out through documentation that many of these people come to our country because of climate change problems in their country, and they're coming to a place that they can farm the land, and that's so important to them. So I'm sure some of the other people on this call know about that, and I don't have to tell them that. I just wonder whether humanitarian or foreign aid has been applied to by El Salvador government, by people concerned about El Salvador, to get further financial aid for especially the poor people in El Salvador. And I just wonder, the COVID-19, how is that processed in El Salvador, and whether we know that some of the Cuban medical personnel have gone to these small and assisted many of them in a cure actually for COVID-19. And some of us are very happy about that. Just to let you know, Buffalo, New York is one of the sites of a sanctuary church. The pastor at that church, Reverend Nancy Rosa, is an El Salvadorian, and she lived through the death squads in the 80s and so on. So she understands some of the tragedies that's happened in that country. And she shared that with us, and a wonderful person to have as a pastor of a sanctuary church, and we're happy for that. Way back, we had a committee called Medical Aid El Salvador during the early 80s, created by a few Catholic priests and some faith-based people to get aid to those people injured by the terrible death squads, and that was quite successful, and we were kind of proud of that. But I guess my question is to both of you, what can we do as a solidarity organization here in New York State to help people out? What could we do immediately? Can we, is it financial help? Can we, is that useful? And is there a U.S. organization that deals directly with El Salvador that we can also support? I guess that's my question. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Which one of you wants to take that one first?
Whatever.
Jean? Oh, Magda? Okay.
Well, added to the 1,000 million of US dollars invested in the pandemic here in El Salvador, we have to add the humanitarian aid that has come to the country. And one of them has been from the United States. They many months ago in April, they promised that 350 ventilators were going to come, but it has taken months, and we are in this big emergency. So only last week, finally, 150 ventilators finally came down of the 350 promised. But it happened that there was a big case in Florida that thousands of ventilators, I think 3,000 ventilators were stolen. So it was very funny to see how they were managing the information down here. And finally they cleared and said, no, these are not related to the robbery in Florida. but there is food aid, there is humanitarian aid here also provided by nonprofits, the Red Cross, some private foundations, and also channel through the private companies, local companies and churches. So if you are connected with churches or any solidarity group, some of them have involved in specifically food aid. With the COVID cases now, El Salvador, up to today, there were 26,000 cases of COVID. 120 medical professionals had passed away from the experience of being working in hospitals, in public hospitals. And this is very interesting because the health system in El Salvador was half public, half private. But during the pandemic, almost everyone have come to the public health system, and this government practically dismantled the public system that was built up in the last two governments. Cubans doctors are not anymore in the country. As soon as he came in, he got rid of them. He expelled them and sent them back to Cuba. So there are no Cuban doctors. And there were big ads calling for international doctors to come to work to the country. Finally, they got 16 Nicaraguans, no Guatemalans. Of course, Guatemala had enough work for them. And he got for less than a month a medical brigade from Spain. What US people can do for this country, I think if you have Salvadorians there, I think you are committed to many these hard workers people there, and they send back money to their families here. Also, get information from your solidarity organizations. That's very important because the media, the main media is really in some way mimicking the propaganda of the president of El Salvador. To the outside world, everything is cool in El Salvador with the new president. Everything is fresh, everything is great, but there are major problems coming up to this country, and still we don't see the whole picture, but we will see it next year. Even though the right and the left wing were, dealing with their tensions and political, differences, now this is more than what we expected was going to happen. So keep in touch, get information from your community organizations, solidarity groups, and if you are connected to any solidarity organization here in El Salvador, many poor people make better lives because international solidarity comes to their tables or to make their lives better.
Okay, thank you, Magda. I have two questions here from Terry Bisson, and then we'll get back to Gail, Kathy, and someone else had their hand up. Jean, this one is for you, I think. Is climate change developing as one of the drivers of migration?
Yes. No, it was really good to hear that brought up because I think climate change, I think what I was trying to reflect is that the drivers are never one thing, and a trigger, the reason why a particular family in any given moment makes a decision can be very, very particular. But climate change is definitely driving it because it's a very overpopulated country. If you look at reporting on the regions of the world that are going to be most affected by climate change, Central America is very high up on that. We have a very dense population. We're deforested, and people depend on land. So it will drive migration because it might look like an economic factor, but if you don't look at why people can't live off the land that they want to live off of, it's climate change that's behind it.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question, I think probably Magda might be able to tell us, are there religious groups supporting Bukele?
It's a very interesting question. Well, he's not a confessed evangelical or Catholic, and this is a country split in those two religions, between half and half of the population. But he has his belief grounds, and his own, based on his own culture and his own family, and he has his own church. It's very difficult for me to say something on his religion, but when he entered the Congress this February, the first thing he did there, like he did a prayer, and he, Jenny, this can be a joke, because he declared 2 days of national prayers on May 24th and August 10th. Everyone in this country prays, one religion or other. But it's very interesting that now that he has called, COVID cases are going down, and all happened because we pray God on August 10th. So this is something that I don't think he takes seriously religion, or he thinks that everyone is full of religion. I don't know, but it's very, very interesting that now that the country has opened up, and even though when he was extremely refusing for not opening the country, and now that the country has opened, he says, all the COVID cases have declined immediately because we pray high on August 10th. So the Catholic Church the bishop have been telling him some truth. He has a good, strong fight against the Central American University, the Jesuits here, because they have been bring up research and paper and data in numbers of the lies and how wrongly the pandemic, he has managed the pandemic. So he's totally an enemy of the Central American University, the Catholic bishop, and some pastors, evangelical pastors too. It's very interesting. He fights with anyone who tells him, oh, maybe you are not telling the truth, or maybe this is wrong. He doesn't stand anyone to tell him something that he might not like to hear. So that's the way.
Sounds pretty familiar, Magda.
Can I just say one thing
Sure,
on that for people who may know more background on El Salvador? The historical Protestant churches, who you might remember were part of the really strong solidarity ties with the United States through the war years and afterwards. The Lutheran Church, the Episcopal Church, the Reformed Calvinist Church, a couple of the Baptist churches, they have been trying to have a voice and to denounce some of these things that Bukele has done, but there doesn't seem to be an echo in the population. That he really does have a lot of popular support, and he has a lot of popular support from evangelicals, but he doesn't have the backing of leadership, because I don't think there's a good basis for it, although he does have some leaders that would back him. So I think there are other parallels there to Trump, and people using religious terms to justify their support of him without there being, I mean, not to get put too fine a point on it, no doctrinal basis to say so, that what he's promoting is somehow based on the Christian religion. I mean, but it's interesting because of that historical past of conservative right-wing Catholics having to have accepted that San Romero de las Americas is a saint of the Roman Catholic Church now, and the sort of historical Protestants who have been very resistant to this kind of abuse of authority, just not having the echo in the population that they did at one time.
Okay. There was a question that was posed to me, and that would be that since this meeting is being recorded, will it be available somewhere? And the answer to that is, I don't know. I'll check with our IT person. And if you want a copy of it, I'm sure there's some way we can get it to you. If you have a pencil and paper handy, I'll give you my email address and you can contact me in a few days to see. We're learning as we go with this whole new stuff. So my email address is all small lowercase letters, R.T. Ward, W-A-R-D, 73 at outlook.com. rtward73 at outlook.com. So if you shoot me an email, I'll get back to you and let you know where it's available. I'm sure there's a way to do that. Oh, thanks, Gene. Okay, Gail Mott, how about you come up front and center and ask your question?
My question's more or less been answered, but I do wonder how strong the opposition is, and if there's a really large contingent of young people, and how effective they are. Remember in the 80s, the enormous demonstrations that were so really remarkable because they were so threatened. But I wonder if there's anything like that today.
No, Gail.
Yeah, go ahead, Nanda.
Sorry, I jump in because it's a very fresh and very good question. I think Jean can develop more, but opposition, we cannot call it yet. Of course, he's faced to the right wing, very strong. El Salvador has a very strong right wing, well-organized political party, has done some bad, some good, but it's a very, very strong constituency. And the leftists, so it's very interesting because his style is to work on social media. He doesn't attend meetings, he doesn't go to see the population, he's always on Twitter. You can tell me who he likes, he looks like to. So when there have been some polls saying that 90% of the population backs him. But it's incredible because there is a big percentage of the population who are, right-wing, because this country has a strong right-wing supporters, but also leftists. And even though he made it to the government with both sides, at this point, so many people, I know friends, I know families who said, this is it. And very quiet at the beginning of this year on February 9, they said, this is it. So I think they're manipulating the numbers of his supporters on the social media because those polls have been done on the social media. Young people, like young people, he's a young president, fresh, in his 30s, cool, selfies. His style is being managed for that audience of young people. So it will take some time to develop, and they are very building up for the next year elections, and they consider they will rip out the right wing and the leftists at the National Congress, and then they will sit in. It will take some time. I think the pandemic is still here. We are still dealing with the economic crisis, the health crisis, but in the meantime, we are looking at all the political crisis. It will come soon, but still that picture is not here.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say one
Jean.
thing on the I'm linking it to what Gail is referring to, what happened during what the opposition looked like in the 80s and how much it really did, gather its energy and strength from young people. I think we're in a different age where it's really difficult to measure how young people really do understand political participation. They are deeply disillusioned by both the left and the right, who failed them utterly on just basic issues of corruption and not addressing the real things at hand. But there's interesting little lights along the way. I think the openness to LGBTQ issues in young people is not limited to people from the community. I think young people see that as a non-political issue in the sense of that it doesn't really come off as right or left necessarily, but definitely see that none of the political parties are talking about things like that in terms of having kind of a progressive, social, let's protect the rights of vulnerable populations. That language isn't anywhere. So even though the cool president is cool, he's very conservative on his social things. And I think there is a questioning of young people about whether or not they're being manipulated by this cool thing. They're not willing to vote left or right. I mean, they really are not convinced by Arena and the FMLN. But I think that there's not this rah-rah support of him in the young population that there might have looked like at the beginning, because he hasn't come through in things of substance that are of interest to young people. And to just keep pounding the cool thing is not going to work just because he's on Twitter. I mean, Trump's on Twitter and he doesn't have, you know, massive appeal to young people just because they're young. He has massive appeal for reasons that we could analyze in another webinar. But I think it will be interesting how people start to react to this. And it's going to be interesting about seeing another generation of people asking harder questions about what happened during the war here and whether or not the left's response, as much as we could admire people who sacrificed themselves to resist the kind of horrible things that people were referring to earlier with the death squads and that, does that mean that they now have the final word on the way things should go for the future? I think it's the youth that are saying, no, they shouldn't, they can't. They're dinosaurs. They need to understand the reality that we're living in. And I don't think there's right now any political position that's appealing to that. So we'll have to see how that evolves.
Kathy, go for it. You gotta unmute yourself.
Yeah, I did. Where is the money going? Where is the money being spent?
Good question. That's the question. The media, the National Congress, the Justice Supreme Court is looking after, and he doesn't want to give any information. As you know, he has used the emergency to lift all the procedures, legal procedures for the state purchases. And they have done direct purchases to friends, to relatives, to people, unknown people, or among themselves, the functionaries themselves, selling things. There have been so many cases, like there was a company that was selling a phone company that sold masks made in Guatemala, done by a factory, made by the factory that was making choose rubbers. So many cases, and sometimes the media has been the one getting out some information of the overprice or of the purchases among suspicious people or not professional people, but there are no yet, and it probably will take, I don't know, years to get the information, the official information. But practically it has been spent on the army, the police, because they have been, I don't know, Janine, but we have said that they have militarized the pandemic. The first stage of the pandemic was not really even, the money was not really spent on the pandemic, on the health issues, but on the militaries and the police and other things, but no health investments. Only one hospital has been built that at the end they didn't build it. They just remodeled a building that already was standing there. The equipment bought, very limited. They have been able to borrow from public hospitals, from other public hospitals, and brought in to the new remodeled hospital. That's the question for the last months. Where is the money? We want to see how money you gave away from that bonus, how many food packages have been distributed. No information, no information, denial. They don't want to pay attention to those questions, but they have to, because the National Congress has been blamed of not giving the money to the president to deal with the emergency, but the National Assembly has been just requesting information, approving all the loans that he has asked. When we will know where the money went, I don't know if we will get that information. So the propaganda that he was going to be a president that was going to fight corruption. Oh, these have been the cases that we never thought could happen in front of our eyes in a very short period of time.
Okay, I've still got about 4 questions ahead of me here, so we got to keep them brief and try and wrap this up like in the next 10 minutes, let's say. So I think the next one was Vic. Vinky was waiting in the wings. Vic? You got to unmute yourself, Vic. Vic, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
I'm wondering, in the past years, there's been a massive amount of gang violence in the country. Some of it exported from the United States. I'm wondering if this is still true, and if so, what the government is doing about it.
Jean?
Yes, it is still true. It's one of the main drivers of people leaving the country or displacing internally. I think I'm supposed to keep it short, so I will say very briefly that I think the gang issue has evolved over time. I think what we've seen is, 1, 2, 3, third generation now of gangs living in communities that are controlled by the gangs. And families who are interacting with that structure in ways that aren't as simple as just the young people joining the organization. The community is dependent on many aspects of it, some of them good, some of them bad. There's some good stuff written about how that's evolved and what's going on with that, but it affects people's daily life in ways that are very small and large. So, where you shop at the grocery store depends on whether or not you live on one gang territory or another. What bus you can take, where you can go and work. These are really significant things, even beyond what would be, oops, sorry, I was looking at Vic there. Okay, even what would be, the violence that's there, that's reported in terms of homicide, or sexual exploitation of women, trafficking, gun and drug running. Those are all part of the economic structure of the gangs, but I think the day-to-day life in the communities has more complexity to it than just that, because people are very rooted in their communities. They know kids growing up, and not necessarily everything that the gangs are involved in are explicitly criminal. But those communities are criminalized and militarized, and makes it very difficult for people in those communities to have interaction with the outside world. The state has abandoned almost completely those communities. So people's dependency on whatever illicit economic structure is there is continuing as well. It's a complicated issue, I think, that has not been properly addressed by the continued drive to use only iron fist, strong hand, law and order responses, because it's a complex social issue that can't only be addressed through the criminal justice system. And I've been working with prisoners and people incarcerated and their families for many, many years. And I I can say quite definitively that the way the prison system has responded to this has been horrific. It's a complete violation of human rights, and the country as a whole applauds mightily the drastic and enhanced security measures that have been in place against gang members in prison since 2016. Since 2016, they haven't been able to communicate with family, their lawyers, pastors, or anyone from the outside world. Most of the time they're spent inside cells without light to the outside. So this is not going to solve the problem. It's not going away. It's going to increase. And Mr. Bukele likes to talk about the reduction in crime, but he hasn't addressed these underlying causes. So that does not give us a lot of hope that it's sustainable, the reduction crime that he frequently quotes.
Okay, thank you. And Margaret Matlin had a question. Margaret? You have to unmute yourself. We can't see you.
Tom, I think you can unmute.
I was trying to, but it didn't seem to.
Couldn't work? Okay.
I sent ask to unmute and no, they've got it controlled at their end. So I'll maybe send them a chat and see if they can pick up that way. And also, Bill Jungles had a question in the chat room. It said, is there any issue in El Salvador that could ignite protests the way that Black Lives Matter has done here?
Very difficult. I think, well, it will take, as I said, it will take some time to develop like an organized idea, because we still live with the uncertainty of which direction Bukele will go, or if he will do bad or good to the country. We have seen many bads, but still he has still some supporters. We don't believe that is he says 90%. El Salvador has a very strong history of resistance or organized against injustice. It will take some time. We don't know. And we don't know how he will make it for the next elections next year. Maybe he will be just a short time in our history and he will leave. We see that Salvadorians are tired of conflicts, political tensions. People prize peace a lot because even though the civil war ended in 1992, there are still many fresh memories of violence. And so people here politicians like to talk and sit and negotiate some issues. Bukele doesn't like that idea of negotiations. He doesn't like to sit and discuss with, the opposition or others who just don't think like him. So it will take some time, but we don't know. We have to wait, I think, some years until he leaves the office.
Okay. Arnie, if you can hear me, come back. I'm surprised I haven't heard much from Nelson. Are you still online? I thought maybe Nelson would have some questions. It's his home country. And so maybe he's still there somewhere. I'll see if I can get him. But anyways, are there any other questions then? Anybody has? Grania, unmute yourself.
My question is for Jean. I'm wondering if let me just start this way. I understand that folks are being deported to Central America, including El Salvador. without telling them. In other words, they're being put on planes and sent back to their home countries without telling them where they're going. And of course, this is completely appalling, but I'm wondering if on your end in El Salvador, you are aware of that happening. Of people arriving in their home country, you know, completely unprepared.
Yeah, during this last period of time or in general?
Well, just the last, I mean, under the Trump administration, but this has only happened really in the last year or so, as I understand it.
Well, I mean, I think people are being held longer and longer in detention centers in the United States.
Correct.
And their jails, their prisons, and the information given to people is very limited. Their access to having any kind of legal counsel is very limited. So, you know, someone's earlier question about what we can do, it is absolutely always necessary to be fighting against the criminalization of migration and the imprisonment of people who are seeking refuge. So that's, I think that's one of the reasons why when people are finally put on a plane, they're not necessarily aware that they're coming back, and they haven't all, or many of them haven't had an opportunity to communicate with family. Some of them don't necessarily even have contacts with family. So all of those things are really difficult, and there aren't good programs to help people relocate. People who are coming back who are afraid to go back to their place of origin are in an even worse situation, because there's not a place of shelter for them if they can't go back to where they fled from. And that, you know, I've interviewed so many people in that situation, you know, I think especially of trans women who all along the way have been completely subject to abuse and violence. And when they're deported, you know, there's no respect for their special condition that no one is going to accept. There's not going to be a program, and people end up in the streets, people end up in really difficult circumstances. But even families that know that someone's coming back and can receive them don't necessarily have the means to help people redo their lives, right? But recently, the deportations, there was a moment during COVID where the governments of the Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras said they weren't going to take people being sent back. But those ventilators that Magda was talking about, you know, those ventilators weren't going to come if Bukele didn't say he was going to let those people be deported. So those planes have been coming all through the pandemic. They are responsible for the spread of COVID in the country, because people were coming from the United States having been told that they were negative, or having been tested without being given their results, or not being tested at all, coming from detention centers where we know that there's not good testing. And they've come back and they're COVID positive, and there's not good means to be able to address that. Most of them were put into quarantine, but those quarantine centers, like the contention centers for people who had disobeyed the lockdown orders, weren't being run with the proper protocols to keep people from infecting each other. So those deportations are not only damaging to people as they have been all along, but they were especially damaging because there were no proper protocols to control the spread of COVID. Not good news.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we probably have lost the connection with Margaret and Ernie and Nelson, and so I think we're going to wrap it up here at this point, and extend our heartfelt thanks to both of our wonderful speakers this evening for joining us, Magda and Jean. They probably haven't even had dinner yet, so we're going to let them go and get dinner. Also want to thank Terry and the whole crew over there at Lasc in Buffalo for being open to joining with us in this venture. It's a little nerve-wracking for the first time through a talk like this, but I think we've survived for the most part. And I think it's been a wonderful evening, and so grateful to both of you ladies for being willing to join us and for putting up with me emailing back in my anxiety saying, "Are you there? Are you there?" So It's been wonderful hosting you both, and I look forward to the day when I can meet you both in person, which I'm sure will happen sometime in the future.
Well done, Tom. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Gail. It's so nice to see you, and welcome back, and know you are loved.
Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night,
I put
everyone.
my email in the chat. If anyone needs to write anytime and wants to know more about El Salvador, we have an ongoing education program that's now online. So please write. You're welcome.
Thank
And
you
you can
so
come
much.
visit.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gene. And,
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone. Good to see Gail too.
Martin, you continue to keep getting well. Martin, good.
Right. We wish you the best.
All right.
Thank you. Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone. Good night.
And always
Speedy recovery, Martin.
Good But you're gonna
night.
say, keep getting hit.
Tom,
Nice to laugh.
remind me. Bye. Nice
Good night.
meeting
Bye.
you.
Bye now.